Hey everyone, it's Amy and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be something completely different to anything I've ever done on this channel before. So we're officially into October. I'm trying to feel all festive over here in my orange jumper thing. I'm trying to get myself into the autumn mood, into the Halloween spirit, because as most of you know, that is like my favorite time of year. I honestly did not know what to do for this week's video. I had a huge list of ideas and then I threw them all out because I didn't like any of them. And instead what I decided to do was read you a scary story from Creepypasta. I will hold up my hands right here and now and say that I love Halloween, but I do not like to be scared. Don't even try and take me to the cinema to see a scary movie because like, I will not sleep for months. I want to be completely upfront here. I have not like screened this story or read it through to see what happens because I want us to have this experience together. So for all I know, I might have chosen the worst story on Creepypasta. I don't know, but we'll see. Okay, so this story is called The House with the Painted Doors, and it is by Stray Dog 1980. The doctor told me it was a figment of my imagination, a hallucination, a phantom limb, cut off, but the ghost of a feeling remains. The doctor tutted and prescribed me a different pill. I've lost count of how many pills I've tried. There was the yellow one, and the red one, and the white capsule, and the green one. They've succeeded in giving me incontinence, nausea, and hair loss, but they haven't taken my girl away. Anyone else intrigued by this? My doctor told me to talk about it, tell people. Who the hell am I supposed to tell something like this? My last friends abandoned me when Sylvia left. It's late here. Where to start when there is so much to tell? At the beginning, I suppose. It's always a good place. We thought we'd had it made when we moved into the suburbs. We had well-paying jobs. Fluke or competence had saved us when the waves of cuts hit around 2010. For once in our lives, money wasn't a problem. 8 years earlier, we had Annabelle, Belle for short. She was our little angel. Parents out there will know. A child shifts the center of gravity in your life. The move was good for her, good for us. Away from the hustle and danger of the city, busy streets, missing children, the sticky hands and staring eyes of sexual predators. It wasn't the house of our dreams, but it was close enough. A lawn for the balmy summer months, fireplace for the chill of winter, space for us to grow into, especially for a young girl. It came fully furnished, and it was a steal. A distressed sale, our agent called it. At least a tenth off what the similar property would set us back. The euphoria and novelty lasted me till the first night. Sylvia was asleep next to me. The moonlight sparkled off the fine hairs on her bare shoulder. We shared a celebratory drink after dinner, and then another after that. I was lying in bed, basking in the warm glow of alcohol when I first heard it. My first thought was rats. That was exactly what it sounded like, the little tap dance of tiny claws on hard wood coming from the walls. The delicate snoring from next to me told me that Sylvia was undisturbed by the scratching noise coming from the walls. I flinched as my bare feet touched the cold floor. The floorboards groaned in protest as I padded across the room like an overweight ninja. The tapping paused at the first creak of the floorboards, then resumed. The rough weave of the wallpaper under my palm as I leaned into the track of the pitter-patter behind the walls. The scampering sounds eluded me. Every time I attempted to track the rats, the sounds seemed to come from another part of the room. My knees grew sore from pressure. I wasn't some young child at a playground. I was a grown man and my weight pressed down on the bony points of my kneecaps. Out of desperation, I put my ear to the wall, hoping that the source of the little noises would reveal itself to me. I was only met with stubborn silence, or almost a stubborn silence. On the edge of my hearing, so quiet that I had to strain my ears to pick it up. A child's laughter from inside the walls. I did not speak of the incident. I spent more time trying to convince myself that there hadn't been that childish giggle. Wind perhaps, the rattle of a toy. Not a rattle, maybe one of those newfangled dolls with those soulless eyes and microchip voice. There was a change in her, like the heavy air that you can smell before a thunderstorm. She was a little quieter than usual. The strange environment will do that to a kid. A little withdrawn. Sylvia didn't really notice. I supposed I'd always been more observant than her. Belle started looking tired, dark crescents appearing under her light hazel eyes. She wasn't getting much sleep. My first instinct was to blame the rats in the walls. Who wouldn't? They got louder and louder as the days went by. The damn things were keeping me up all night. It seemed that the sounds progressed from simple scratchings to thumps, almost as though they were cursed rodents were hurling themselves bodily against my walls. The thumping sounds started sounding eerily like footsteps. I was not about to be defeated by a group of jumped up rats in my own home. Fueled by testosterone-induced rage, I waged war. I tried the glue traps, I tried poison, I tried cages. Nothing worked. I asked Sylvia about it, but she seemed oblivious to the late night disturbances. That woman could sleep through a hurricane. I asked Belle if the noise was keeping her up at night. Sylvia was over in the living room watching TV while Belle and I did the dishes. She just looked up with those big eyes of hers. The other children want to come in and play, but they can't open the door. That girl always had an overactive imagination, but this one hit a little too close to home for me. I felt the unfamiliar prickle of goose flesh on my arm. You mean the door to the house? I asked, keeping my tone deliberately playful. It was a game, just another of her little games. I had imaginary friends at that age. Why should my child have been any different? No, Daddy. The door behind the cupboard. We were up in her room. The opening theme from Desperate Housewives floated up through the floorboards, a world away. I thought I'd humour my little girl, but there was something deathly serious in her tone that I could not shake. I reached back around the standalone wardrobe and felt nothing more than the smooth paint on the wall. There's no door here, honey. Look closer, she insisted. I held up my cell phone for light, still playing along. There was something strange in the palm width between the cupboard and the wall. A discoloration of the wall, perhaps, something darker in the shade of the wardrobe. The hard edges of the wardrobe bit into the soft flesh of my fingers. I put my back into it, and the piece of furniture gave round grudgingly. And there it was, a door behind the wardrobe, just as Belle had said. Not any door, though. I ran my fingers over the smooth surface of the wall, just a painted one. So convincing were the brush strokes on the door that I had to touch the wall again to tell myself it wasn't real. How do you know this was there, baby bear? I asked. The other children told me. From school? As far as I knew, she hadn't brought any friends home before. No, Daddy, the children from behind the door, she said. I looked into her tawny eyes, hoping to spot some twinkle of mischief there. There was nothing but an innocent earnestness. I lay in bed that night, studying the cracks on the ceiling. My heart pounded hard in my chest, a heavy bass line above the distant rumble of the heating. My daughter's words had unsettled me in a strange way I could not pinpoint. It felt off somehow, like a surrealist painting, one tiny detail throwing my carefully ordered world into disarray. I took deep breaths, trying to drive away that strange tight fear in my chest. The odd painted door, a mural of some sort? Why was it still there when the room had been so clearly repainted? The thumping of the rats in the wall sounding so much like little footsteps. The children from behind the door, she said. I rubbed at my forearms vigorously, trying to press the goosebumps back down into my skin. That's when the thumping started again. Not rats, I realized. Not rats at all. Footprints. The light bounce of a child. I crept up to my wall again, pressing my ear against the wallpaper. There was laughter there, soft and faint. Not the laughter of a single child. Children. Their happy footfalls beating a rough drum beat on the wooden floor. There was someone else in there with my daughter. No! My heart jumped. I felt the chill of my veins as I rushed out of my room and tore down the corridor. The silvery light of the moon shone through the window. It gave everything an odd, flat look without contrast. Belle's room was only a few feet from the door to our bedroom, but my chest heaved with deep, body-shaking breaths. I could still hear them faintly through the door, the thud of feet on the floor. I steeled myself. It was nothing. Sound traveled strangely through these old houses. Echoes, maybe. She was just talking to herself in her sleep. The stress of moving, perhaps. Suitably calmed, I turned the doorknob slowly. There was a shush from the other side of the door, and silence descended like a shroud. I gave the door a gentle push. The room was dark and quiet. The moonlight crept into the room. My daughter was standing there, just behind the door, a still figure against the dark background. The shock took the strength from my legs. I backed away a little quicker than I meant to. She just stood there, swaying slightly. Thin white crescents showed from under her hooded eyelids. Her lips were moving, almost soundlessly. I leaned forward, straining to make out what she was saying. It slowly became clear, one sentence over and over. All the doors are open now. All the doors are open. And from behind her, in the shadowed room, the quiet click of a door shutting. Belle didn't recall a thing the next morning. She could sense my frustration and fear as I quizzed her about the night before. Dark circles framed puzzled eyes in her pale face. She hadn't slept well last night either. Sylvia took her to school. Hadn't broached the topic with Sylvia yet. There was still some time before I had to leave for the office. I crept back to my daughter's room, feeling like a thief in my own empty house. I stood in front of that strange painted door for the second time in many days. I ran my fingers around its edges, remembering the strange sound of the door shutting from the night before. I pulled the wardrobe out further, putting my entire frame between the wardrobe and the door and leaning into it. There was no give, no yielding of the door. It was just painted over a wall as solid as any other. I was about to go when I heard an unfamiliar rasp under my foot. The floor was gritty with some kind of dust. I knelt down and pinched some of the dust up between two fingers. All the doors were open now, my daughter's dreamy voice in my ear, my memory of it so sharp that it seemed that she was right there whispering it. How odd it was for the dust to be pink. Of course it would be. It wasn't dust at all. It was paint. Paint from the wall. Things didn't get better. The gambling footsteps continued at night, unabated. That and the whispers and the giggles at night. Whatever was in my daughter's room toyed with me. It never let Sylvia hear it. It would stay up, waiting to wake my wife up just in time to hear it, only to be met with stubborn silence. Trickery wouldn't work either. We stayed up late to catch a DVD long into the small hours of the night, but the house remained quiet. The laughter from the next room was always tantalizingly distant, the happy sounds of children at play as though from a great distance. Too great a distance to be in the room next to mine. Belle was in high spirits, but she was wasting away. Sylvia hadn't noticed it yet, but I felt it in the sharp bones of her shoulders pressing into my arms when I hugged her, or her skinny arms that I could almost encircle with my thumb and forefinger. I received an email from her form teacher mentioning that Belle wasn't integrating well at school. She said that Belle was perpetually tired in class and Belle had blamed late night games of tag and hide and seek with her friends for her tiredness. You need to exercise more control over your girl, he said. I had to know what was going on. Sylvia was already asleep. The nightly visits hadn't started yet. I slid into Belle's room silently, an open packet of flour in my hand. I scattered it all around the floor, taking care not to step on the flour myself. I lay back in my bed with a sigh, waiting for the sounds to start. Sleep took me unexpectedly, but what little I had was fitful and restless. I woke with a snort at first light. It was a Saturday and it would be some time yet before the rest of the world awoke. I stretched under the covers, my back popping satisfyingly. I blinked the sleep from my eyes. The flour. I had to check the flour. I swung my feet off the bed and planted them on the floor, right next to the pair of white speckled footprints. Just where they would be if someone was standing over my bed, staring at me. I feel all the tingles right now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm struggling with this. That damnable chill stole the warmth of the morning sun from my skin. My hands clenched and unclenched spastically, like dying spiders. I stared at the trail of flour-marked footprints from my open door. How long had she stood there, in the dark, watching me, I wondered. I stood up on shaky legs, my hand on the wall to support myself down the corridor. Belle's door was ajar. It swung, I just had a message and it scared me to death. Okay, it swung open silently. The sound of deep breathing told me that Belle was still asleep. There was but a single set of footprints, just starting from her bed, where her feet would have landed if she got off. No multiple footprints, just a single set from my daughter. She'd never sleepwalked before, but who knew what dark things lurked in her psyche? I heaved a sigh of relief, chastising myself for a week's worth of irrationality. How reassuring the illusion of normalcy in our lives, and how quickly it shatters. Not with a roar or with a flash, with something simple. Something simple. Ah! Oh my good God! You have to come back later! I can't talk to you right now. I'm losing my nerve. Something simple like my daughter's shoe bouncing off my toe as I tried to leave the room, flipping once, twice, and coming to rest next to a hollow in the flour on the floor. The size, the shoe, the prints, didn't fit, it didn't match. Whatever had gotten off the bed had stood next to me the night before. It wasn't Belle. Okay, y'all, I am really involved in this story right now, and I hope that you guys are too, but it is way longer than I anticipated that it would be. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the video here and I'm gonna continue reading it right now because I need to know what happens, and then I'm gonna put up a part 2 to this video tomorrow so we can find out what is going on with these creepy door children, because I'm scared half to death right now and it's not a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you are excited to see part 2 of this and find out what happens. Like, I want to know, but I also kind of don't want to know because it's scary. Almost like died when Abida knocked the door just now. Like, for real, I thought that was it. My life was over. It was done. Lights out for Amy. If you guys did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up to let me know. And don't forget to go ahead and subscribe. And go ahead and let me know what kinds of Halloween videos you'd like to see this October. I'm looking for some inspiration. But until next time, I hope you all have a beautiful day. I hope you can actually get some sleep after this, because I know I won't. And I will see you all soon. Bye.